Welcome to CCD Health Roundtable discussion on enhancing and scheduling operations in outpatient healthcare and radiology centers. Our main objective today is to reveal the common hurdles faced by healthcare and radiology centers in relation to scheduling and shed light on the substantial impact these challenges have on their financial performance. My name is Tomás Bisonó, and I am Director of Customer Success here at CCD. And with me today, I have Carol Gonzalo, Senior Director of Operations, and Raúl Bueno, our Training Director. Together, we will navigate through the unique intricacies of the niche healthcare sector and explore the complexities surrounding the design of processes for outpatient centers. Our aim is to unlock the potential for increased patient conversions, conquer obstacles, and ultimately ensure heightened patient satisfaction, leading to boosted revenue and profitability. It is no secret that in today's economic climate, healthcare providers and radiology centers are facing significant challenges. We start with heightened inflation over the past couple of years. We also have extreme competition between the local competition between the radiology centers and healthcare providers. We also have high interest rates, and all of that really have put the radiology centers and healthcare providers in a situation in which they need to look outward to heighten their operations and create a more significant impact. So we believe that this is a prime opportunity for them to create a situation in which they can become a lot more effective and create a more business sense on their end.
I agree 100%. I think that the economic aspect is definitely influencing how companies adjust their day-to-day, obviously. It represents a challenge, as you say. It's a roadblock that is there. But I think that there are things that we can do to help. As everyone knows, we tend to take on workload from stateside, right? We outsource some of the challenges, and what we do is adapt our knowledge and our data analysis to improve some of those hurdles, right? So one of the main things that we want to focus today is on how do we streamline that operations from a scheduling point of view. But I do want to note, and maybe you guys can agree with me or not, but it's not solely from a scheduling aspect that we should be looking at that optimization. What do I mean by that? We answer the phones, we help schedule the patients in a timely manner, but how does the workflows at each center for our partners influence that? How does the phone tree setup influence that scheduling process, efficiencies, and conversion? Ultimately, to your point, that's the end result, right? We're looking to optimize, schedule more people, convert more. So it's not only getting them on the books, but actually seeing them in our centers, right? It's a financial game at the end of the day. So there are techniques. You can look at handle times internally if you want to look at the operational aspect of the scheduling group. How efficient are they? How can we lower those? How do we adapt those screening questionnaires to necessary questions that we need at the moment to guarantee proper scheduling? But ultimately, I think that until you have a proper phone tree where a patient goes from point A to point B, where point B is being scheduled and on that book, and guaranteeing patient satisfaction, it doesn't really matter any of the other aspects. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I definitely agree. And it's important to keep in mind that everything that we do is to ensure proper patient satisfaction, but as well, like you mentioned, the business side, we want to make sure that it's efficient. So when you think about how you train these individuals to perform that function, you train them with the real life scenarios and processes that they will be handling. It's very important that practices have training systems that could enhance the way that they practice, and that the processes are well documented. And for example, we worked a lot with partners where that's the kind of things that we focus on. How is your documentation? How are your flows? Do you have them mapped out in a way that makes sense for the patient to go from that point A to point B that you mentioned? And ultimately, really ensure that they're satisfied with the service that is provided.
Yeah, and then to that, something that comes to mind is proper staffing. I mean, yeah, you're getting me the calls faster. I have the workflow narrowed down. It's efficient. It's to the point, right? I'm getting you on the books, but if I don't have people to answer the phones, then it doesn't really matter that optimization too. So it goes back to data. How do you utilize it? Some of our partners, or a lot of our partners, don't even know that they have so much information hosted in their phone systems that could help optimize that workflow at the end of the day.
And ultimately, we do have a lot of success cases. Ultimately, what we always want to drive into is, what is it essential to do a proper scheduling? They may have all these screening questions. They may have all these processes they have built in, for example, during COVID. But nowadays, because of where we stand and in general post-COVID, then we certainly need to focus on what is essential. And we have a few of those cases in which we kind of like optimize our workflow, and we determine that by streamlining that process, we could get from point A to point B so much more quicker. That will impact all the metrics within what we measure in our call center or in our operations. And but also, it's not only how quickly you get them scheduled, but also how much of an impact you can generate in all the lines of businesses or in all the metrics that that we measure or that we like to measure success with, right? So we always want to drive our partners into what they could feel as they have won, if we can use that word, in terms of patient satisfaction. And as you were saying, in order for us to do that more effectively, then we need to have sound systems and procedures that could actually transfer that clearly into the process and for them to understand, so we can all become very successful, right? And to your point, in terms of data, yes, I do remember visiting a client last year in which they have all this capability. You could see it right on the screen that then they could drive a lot of decisions. But in the end, they didn't know exactly how to apply it. What was it the most important thing to apply? Was the second, was the third, in order to drive those financial incentives?
That's very common. And I think that that's one of the main hurdles, if you ask me, that would affect that optimization process and finding efficiencies within all the departments that affect that final conversion. Because, and taking a step back, you mentioned having the right questionnaires, getting them on the books, but at the end of the day, let's not fool ourselves, right? The point is seeing them. You may get them on the books, but if it's not an accurate scheduling, you did nothing.
You won't be able to execute.
You did nothing. And yes, part of that percent that it's lost at each center is because of maybe technicians that are not there or understaffed or people out sick. That affects all of us. But that's what, 10%, 12%, some cases 20%. Good. You learn how to live with that, but you have a good 80% that if you got them right, you're converting those.
And then you're driving patient satisfaction.
You're driving patient satisfaction. And then another thing is, if you learn how to overcome some of those hurdles, for instance, lift the fear of change, adapt to some of the things that we've mentioned, right? So maybe implement new technology that eases some of the difficulties in the phone tree portion of it so that a patient gets to us faster, smoother, that they don't have to sit on hold. You look at things like them even having to talk to multiple people. Like if you lift some of those hurdles, you can play late at a later stage with other projects to influence that conversion. We haven't talked about outbound projects. True. We haven't talked about tools that would also combine with your phone tree and your IVR system today that would automatically call those orders that you have in the system sitting for someone to get to. So you don't necessarily have to wait for someone to pick up the phone and call you. You can produce that volume to yourself, but you have, to your point, know how to use that data that you have, which is a big hurdle. Is one, not having data available, and two, the inexperience of it, not knowing how to implement it, how to analyze it, which is one of the big things that we bring to the table too, is we have this experience, we are data driven, and we like to make sure that we have the right people on the right place at the end of the day.
And we have been doing that for so long that we always say that we have gained a high level of expertise in this market. That's why we believe outsourcing with us makes sense. Because we are experts, we have streamlined those processes. We have learned how to guide partners through the process. We know very precisely how long it takes to drive down certain metrics. And those conversations when we have with those clients, set very clear expectations that it's not only now, well, I'm gonna outsource, and then I'm going to, in a matter of a couple of weeks, I have a high impact. It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way.
But because we have managed that data so precisely over so many years, we know that to a certain extent that driving AHT down by minutes may take 4 to 6 weeks. So the impact of it is significant, but also the expectations are set very clearly, because I know, working in customer success, that that's some of the things that if you don't set it properly at the beginning and you talk to metrics and data and make data-driven decisions from the beginning, then you get into this perception game, which is something that we really don't want to get into, and we have learned how to come out of because of driving decision based on metrics.